All right, let's get into the biggest Pistons story of the day, and it's that the Detroit Pistons have officially traded Jaden Ivey. And it's that they just traded Jaden Ivey to the Chicago Bulls in a multi-team deal, and it involves the Minnesota Timberwolves as well. And this move is the first real seismic Pistons move at the 2026 NBA trade deadline that we've seen from them. And it marks the end of the Jaden Ivey chapter in Detroit. And so before we break this down, I want to touch on the trade mechanics here because it's interesting and it's kind of important to make mention of before I get further into it. But Detroit sends out Ivey, and, obviously he was the former number 5 overall pick from 2022 to Chicago, alongside veteran guard Mike Conley Jr., and that's via T-Wolves' involvement. And in return, the Pistons get Kevin Huerter, who's a sharpshooter, and forward Dario Saric, plus a protected 2026 first-round pick swap from Minnesota. Not bad. And so with Jaden Ivey, this kid was obviously once the face of Detroit's young backcourt, but that era is well over with. He had flashes, explosive athleticism, he had some scoring bursts, but nagging injuries and inconsistent play this season, it really held him back. And after missing most of last year with a broken leg and coming back into a much deeper Pistons roster, let's face facts here. His minutes and impact have shrunken considerably as a result. I don't think anybody's shocked by that. His season averages this year is just over 8 points and almost 17 minutes a night, which is nowhere near what Detroit hoped for when they drafted him that high 4 years ago. He was hurt. He was inconsistent. And when you're playing alongside guys, all-stars, like Cade Cunningham, or Oscar Thompson or Jalen Duren, and a core that's actually competing for the top seed in the East, roles get tight. Now, I think from Chicago's perspective, the Bulls are adding Ivey and Mike Conley Jr., and I think they see Ivey as a young, athletic backcourt piece with upside if he can find a groove. The Bulls have struggled themselves this year, hovering around that 8-9 seed line. So this move is probably low risk for them, I think. Potentially a high reward chance to flip minutes and see if Ivey can reignite his career in a new system. I would imagine that's probably why they agreed to this. But for Detroit, Kevin Huerter, this is a key return. He gives the Pistons something they sorely needed, and that's perimeter shooting. As of right now, Detroit ranks near the bottom of the league in three-point attempts and efficiency. And his career has been built on spacing and floor creation. So he's a career 37% three-point shooter. And while this season has seen him regress a bit, pairing him with Cade and spacing the Pistons run could get that stroke back. I think this was a great move for Detroit. I think this makes sense. They basically looked at their weakest spot on the team statistically and said, okay, let's get a guy. And they pulled Kevin back into the frame. Saric is more of a roster financial piece, I think. Someone the team might have to waive to clear space, depending on how Detroit wants to build out the rest of the bench. But I wouldn't expect him to move the needle much on the court. Those are more contract mechanics when you're trying to stay competitive and flexible as the playoffs, get closer. And the pick swap is interesting to me too, because in a year where every draft asset counts, having the right to swap first-round positions with the Wolves gives Detroit optional upside. If Minnesota flops, then Detroit could jump up in 2026 draft positioning without giving any picks of its own. So definite upside there. I do like that part of it for sure. And so I think for Detroit, I don't think this is just about replacing Ivey. I think it's about fit and trajectory, because the Pistons, and I've talked about this in some of my other episodes, It's not about rebuilding anymore for the Pistons. They're trying to win. With a 36-12 record leading the Eastern Conference and rewarding MVP-type play from Cade, adding shooters, role players, and maintaining cap flexibility is how you build a legitimate championship contender. And I think everybody knows how hungry Detroit Pistons fans are for this. Now, this isn't a blockbuster headline. It's no Ivy for a star, but I think that's the point. It's a fit deal, not a flashy one. The Pistons are signaling that they want to build around what they have, which is Cade, Duren, Osser, and now some spacing with Herter. And so they obviously want to tighten up stylistically and boost their profile for the postseason, and that means smart, not sensational trades here at the deadline. And so I'm very happy with what they did. But we need to pivot for a second because the league-wide landscape matters too. This 3-team deal really helps Minnesota offload some salary and luxury tax, dropping their tax bill significantly, and potentially freeing up space to chase a star like Giannis before Thursday's trade deadline. So eyes are going to be on that for sure. I mean, that's a domino you should absolutely be watching. And speaking of the Bulls, they got busy because they didn't stop there. Chicago also did a separate move, trading Nikola Vucevic to the Boston Celtics for sharpshooter Anthony Simmons and a second rounder. And so that shows you that they really want to retool that roster quickly around youth and scoring punch. And so where do the Pistons go from here? I think you can bet the front office is still probably exploring additional upgrades, even though they said that they didn't think there was going to be any other major news. Because there have been rumblings about interest in players like Michael Porter Jr. or Miles Bridges as possible fits. But at this point, they seem to be in that careful, calculated, add shooters, protect the core, push for playoff positioning. I mean, that's what it looks like from the outside. And so what does this mean for fans? Because it's about to get real. I mean, this Ivy hype was a real thing for a while with the highlight plays, athleticism, pick and roll juice, I mean, you name it. But his time here was interrupted. And a reset sometimes works better than forcing an identity that just didn't stick. This move, in my opinion, clears noise and roster congestion, and it gives the Pistons clarity heading into March and April. These are important months. This is where the season is going to get made. And so at the end of the day, Detroit made a pragmatic choice. They flipped a guy who didn't quite fit into a roster that looked dangerous in the East, and for shooters and for future flexibility. Now, it's not sexy, but winning in the NBA often isn't. It's just, it is what it is. And so I think it was a trade that made perfect sense. I would give it a B+, trade made, future being shaped, and the Pistons climbing toward a playoff run with eyes on a deeper push. Keep it locked. You're listening to Midnight Sports Detroit.